Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 7 Part 9 based on novel. So let's start. Purple Golden Nirvana Seal. Only those who had stepped into the Nirvana Golden ranking would have this unique indicator. This was the first time Lin Dong had seen a genuine purple gold Nirvana seal. Moreover, what he felt most surprised by was that the owner of this purple gold Nirvana seal was actually a beautiful lady. Great waves were surged within Lin Dong's heart, and it was only some time later before he managed to suppress it forcefully. He extended his hand and gently made contact with Lanting's hand. That icy cool yet tender feeling made him unwilling to let it go. Great Yang Empire, Lin Dong. However, Lin Dong ultimately did not overindulge in this feeling. He did everything appropriately and released her hand after a mere touch. This was because he clearly understood that this lady in front of him was likely the strongest person he had met ever since he had arrived at the ancient battlefield. Before he managed to identify whether this lady was an enemy or a friend, he must proceed with caution. Lin Ying stared at Lin Dong before smiling sweetly. Her sharp female's instincts had similarly allowed her to discover Lin Dong's shrunken eyes when the latter saw the purple gold Nirvana seal on her palm. At the same time, she could also feel the caution and fear Lin Dong had towards her. I have long since heard of your group. I never unexpected that we would only bump with each other here. Lin Ying had a very sharp chin, and when she smiled, it caused her to look quite beautiful. Her pretty eyes were also smiling gently as she looked at Little Martin, Little Flame, who were beside Lin Dong, and Suruo, who was standing behind Lin Dong. Little Martin still retained his leisure manner. His handsome face was always able to immediately attract the eyes of others. Lin Ying's eyes similarly paused on his face for a moment. Her long fingers were immediately curled. She could sense a faint dangerous feeling from his body. Her gaze paused on Little Martin for a moment. After which, she looked at Little Flame, who had a strong giant-like body, as well as the timid Suru that was standing behind Lin Dong. The back of her teeth immediately bit her red lips. Subsequently, she turned towards Lin Dong and spoke in a tone before she spoke with a deeper meaning. The strength of your group really lives up to your reputation. Miss Lin Ying is too generous. There are many hidden talents within this core region, and we might even be unfortunate enough to be targeted by others and have our Nirvana seal stolen a short moment later. Lin Dong laughed. He naturally understood that this Lin Ying seemed to have seen through some of their strength. That might be true. Lin Ying covered her mouth and laughed, an action that was beyond Lin Dong's expectations. It was as though she did not think that Lin Dong was merely being humble. Moreover, when she spoke, she was also staring at Lin Dong, intending to see whether the latter would be angered because of his pride. However, what caused her to be a little surprised was that even after she directly provoked him, Lin Dong continued to smile. In fact, his eyes even did not reveal any hostile ripples. This place is where tigers and dragons hide, and it is an extremely chaotic environment. No one can be certain about what will happen next. Lin Dong laughed softly. It is indeed uncertain. However, I do know of a troublesome group that will approach you. Lin Ying smilingly said. Oh. Lin Dong raised his eyebrows slightly. Since Lin Ying described them as troublesome, it would seem like the ones who were targeting them would not be ordinary individuals. One of the 10 great super empires, the Sky Devil Empire. Heirs who have inherited the inheritance of the leader of the 4 great demon sects, Dao Tai. Lin Ying said with a gentle smile. Standing beside him, Tsukuei's expression drastically changed once again. The number of empires in the Eastern Xian region were as numerous as the stars. However, these empires were also divided into different ranks. The super empires were the overlord amongst them. At the same time, amongst these super empires, there were 10 strongest empires, and they were the elite. They were called the 10 great super empires of the Eastern Xian region. This so-called Sky Devil Empire was one of them. Similarly, the Celestial Empire that Lin Ying originated from was one of them as well. They were the true elite standing at the peak of this ancient battlefield. Perhaps they had been looking down on everyone ever since they entered this realm, while they walked right in front of everyone. It is indeed quite troublesome. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He was aware of the existence of the 10 great super-empires. However, he did not know that the inheritors of the Dao Tai sect inheritance was actually one of them. Therefore, the Sky Devil Empire would likely be several times stronger than the Great Net Empire. If this empire came looking for them, it was likely that there would be an intense big battle. Lei Ning curled her mouth slightly and glanced curiously at Lin Dong, whose expression had not really changed. She seemed to be a little curious about the source of his calmness. After all, those fellows from the Sky Devil Empire were individuals that even she felt extremely troublesome to deal with. The number of people swarming over to this region increased while Lin Dong was conversing with Lei Ning. The noise created also broke the original silence of this place. Buzz. At this moment, a humming sound was suddenly emitted from the sky. Countless number of people raised their heads to stare, only to see a glow suddenly rushing over from the middle of the forest. After which, it transformed into a human figure, who appeared in the tall sky. That human figure was standing on an enormous sword, while wearing the clothes of a sect. His eagle-like eyes were filled with an intense sternness as they swept over the entire place. An extremely powerful pressure also swept out from his body one wave after another and caused the noisy surroundings to turn completely silent. Everyone looked at the figure with respect. From the clothes of the figure, all of them knew that this person in front of them was a member of the super sect, whom they respected like gods in their hearts. Your abilities have been proven since you were able to reach this place after 1 year of bitter training. However, the selection of disciples by the super sects is extremely strict. Only the most outstanding individuals will be chosen. That person riding a sword in the midair overlooked everyone. His voice was just like that of muffled thunder that rumbled beside everyone's ears. Only one condition is needed to ascend the 100 Empire Mountain. The Nirvana seals in your hands must become purple gold in color. As long as you can secure it, your 1 year worth of training will have a fairy tale ending. Purple gold Nirvana seal. The expressions of quite a number of experts around became complicated when they heard these words. They clearly understood just what the purple gold Nirvana seal represents. It was an indication of an expert on the Nirvana golden ranking. It was not an easy task to turn one's Nirvana seal into a purple gold color in front of the ill-intent gazes of the countless number of experts around. I don't care what tactics you use, and we will also not be bothered about the process. All we care about is the end result. As long as you are able to possess a purple gold Nirvana seal, it will be sufficient for you to catch the eye of the super sects. Lin Dong's heart involuntarily sighed quietly when he heard this. These fellows, looks like they were really intending to force most of the people here to go crazy. It was likely that a cruel massacre would occur in the interior of the desolated forest after everyone entered it. With so many competitors around, the ones who could obtain the purple gold Nirvana seal would definitely be amongst the minority. This kind of selection is really a little harsh. Is there any use for the absorption of this level of fresh blood for these super sects? Lin Dong softly muttered to himself. Those who possess the purple gold Nirvana seals and are selected will be specially groomed after entering the super sect. They can be considered as a direct disciple. At the same time, those people from the super sects will also observe the various battles within the forest. Those who have an outstanding performance will also be selected by them. However, after entering the super sects, they can only be considered a disciple in name. Of course, their position will naturally be inferior to the former. The one who had explained to Lin Dong was Lei Ning, who was standing beside him. The gaze she used to look towards that man riding a sword in the midair was not overly respectfully. It was likely that she was a very experienced person who was well versed in worldly matters. Given Miss Lei Ning's outstanding talent, it is likely that a super sect has long since reserved you, right? Lin Dong smilingly asked. The Celestial Empire is the direct descendant of the 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace. I will naturally be entering it. Of course, if one's talent is mediocre, it will be difficult to enter regardless of how good one's connection is. Lei Ning laughed softly. 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace. Lin Dong was immediately stunned when he heard this name. He remembered that back in the great desolate province of the Great Yang Empire, he had met a linen-clothed old man. That fellow seemed to have mentioned that he was someone from the 9-Heaven Supreme Purity Palace. Now that he thought about it, that fellow back then really knew how to boast. With his strength that was not even at 1 yuan nirvana stage, it was likely that the person would only be an extremely ordinary character even if he was part of the 9-Heaven Supreme Purity Palace. Hence, it was clearly impossible for him to pull Lin Dong into that faction. Laniang treated this as though Lin Dong had just first heard of these super sects. Therefore, she appeared unconcerned as she looked at the person riding a sword in the midair, who was acting superior as he uttered those useless words. After which, she smilingly said, "There are a total of 7 super sects in the Eastern Xian region. Of course, other than them, there are still some other super sects. However, the strength of the other super sects are inferior to them." "Oh? Which of these 7 super sects is the strongest?" Lin Dong asked curiously. It was the first time he had heard such a detailed information that was related to those super sects that stood high above. The dominant one among the 7 super sects should be Yuan Gate. Laniang pursed her red lips slightly and spoke with a complicated expression in her eyes. Yuan Gate. When Lin Dong heard this somewhat foreign name that seemed to possess a vast and mighty aura, he nodded slightly. However, he promptly saw little Martin's expression changed subtly. The super sects of the Eastern Xian region are not considered harmonious. The competition between them are quite intense. If you were to enter a super sect that has some conflict with our 9-Heaven Supreme Purity Palace, in the future we might even end up fighting. Laniang teased. Lin Dong felt ashamed. However, he obtained another piece of information from this. These super sects of the Eastern Xian region did not appear to be united. It seems like one would not be able to escape various disputes no matter where one was in this world. While Lin Dong was continuously inquiring about the information relating to the super sects, the mighty voice of the human figure riding a sword in the midair had finally come to a stop. He looked at the blood-red eyes of many people below before he smiled with satisfaction. After which, he suddenly waved his hand. "Since everyone is ready, I shall announce that the 100 Empire War will officially begin." Bang! The entire place seemed to tremble at this moment before rushing wind sound resounded over the sky. Finally, many figures rushed towards the final battlefield below from all directions. "I shall make a move first. Lin Dong, hopefully I will be able to meet you at the 100 Empire Mountain. There's finally a low-rank Empire member that made it here. Please do not disappoint me." Laniang turned her head and smiled sweetly at Lin Dong after she saw the flashing human figures that covered the sky. Her lovely body moved, transforming into a couple of afterimages as she rushed out. What quick speed! No wonder she is someone who has stepped into the Nirvana Golden ranking. Lin Dong also sighed as he looked at Laniang's phantom-like speed. Those who could step into the Nirvana Golden ranking were indeed not ordinary individuals. "Let's go. We'll head directly to the 100 Empire Mountain." A trace of wild heat also climbed into Lin Dong's eyes when he sensed that the atmosphere around him that had exploded. In the next instant, he waved his hand and rushed towards the forest like an enormous bird. Little Martin and the rest followed closely behind. The final battleground has finally arrived. Lin Dong's group directly rushed into the desolated forest that was overflowing with a fearsome aura. Under the cover of the enormous lush trees, it seemed like the world in front of them had been covered by layers of faint red blood. There were countless number of geniuses from various empires have been buried within the forest. Clearly, after today, the ground here would turn even more dark red. When Lin Dong's group landed in the forest, they were already able to sense the intense battles that had suddenly erupted within this region. Everyone who had entered this place all showed signs of turning into crazy devils. They had given up on too much in order to reach this place. Hence, no one wanted their final step to be blocked. Even if they were unable to step into the Nirvana Golden ranking, they must still perform to the best of their abilities. This was because this was their final opportunity. What should we do? Sukue's eyes looked around him. The surrounding atmosphere caused his expression to turn solemn. Immediately, he did not dare to make any decisions and chose to turn to look at Lin Dong instead. "Let's head directly to the 100 Empire Mountain." Those who can reach the place are the true elites, and their nirvana seals are the best. Lin Dong softly said. Instead of bitterly snatching other people's nirvana seals in this outer area, it was better to head directly to the foot of the 100 Empire Mountain and wait for others to do the work. Although those who could reach there were all extraordinary individuals, it would save them a great deal of effort. Lin Dong's voice had just sounded when he suddenly frowned and lifted his head. He could sense that there was quite a number of rushing wind sounds hurrying towards his direction. Have we been targeted so soon? Mo Ling and the rest also appeared to have detected something. The looks on their faces changed before they quickly circulated the yuan power within their bodies. The sound of wind splitting swiftly arrived. Moments later, numerous figures came rushing over from both sides of the forest. Finally, they appeared on the empty ground of Lin Dong's group. A surprised expression involuntarily appeared on Lin Dong's face when these people appeared. This was because those in front of him were individuals that he was acquainted with. Ha ha, brother Lin Dong. It has been half a year since we have met. It looks like you are doing well. A white-clothed handsome man, who was standing amongst the group to the left, cupped his hands together and laughed in a loud clear voice. It turns out that he was actually the one who had also obtained one of the 4 great mysterious sects' inheritance back then, Liu Bai. There were quite a number of experts clustered around Liu Bai. That glaring red-dressed enchanting lady with a slim and lovely body beside him was also someone that Lin Dong was acquainted with, Mu Hongling. Beside Mu Hongling stood a strong-looking man. This man had a square face and his rough eyebrows contained some prestige. It was likely that he was no ordinary individual. There were fewer people towards the right side. However, all of them possessed powerful auras. The one leading them was the black-clothed Yang Sen. All the inheritors of the 4 great mysterious sects had actually gathered at this place. While Lin Dong was observing Liu Bai's group, the other party had clearly placed their eyes onto the former's body. His eyes contained a deep sigh. When they had first seen Lin Dong back then, the latter was not even worthy enough for them to view him seriously. However, now, even their prideful self had no choice but to admit that Lin Dong's lineup had gradually surpassed them. At the very least, they could not force the Great Net Empire to pay such a heavy price when faced with the latter. These people are really strong. That square-faced man beside Mu Hongling slowly spoke with a grave expression in his eyes. Mu Hongling nodded gently. Her teeth bit her red lips as her beautiful eyes stared at Lin Dong with a complicated expression. When they had first met, Lin Dong had not even reached the half-step to Nirvana stage. Yet, he had currently become the dark horse, who was most likely to enter the Nirvana Golden ranking. You would not come looking for me if there is no reason to do so. Since everyone has come looking for me, I don't think it's because you are after the Nirvana seals in our hands, right? Lin Dong smiled slightly. He remained calm despite the arrival of these 2 large factions. With his strength, Lin Dong would not be afraid even when faced with those so-called 10 great super empires. Brother Lin Dong really knows how to joke. Currently, there is hardly anyone in the 100 Empire Forest who dares to target you. Liu Bai smiled. Promptly, he paused before he said, the reason that we have come here is because we wish to cooperate with Brother Lin Dong. Cooperate? Lin Dong was startled. Since Brother Lin Dong has already exchanged blows with the Great Net Empire, I think that you should aware of the Ground Evil Alliance and the inheritors of the 4 great demon sects, right? Liu Bai asked. Yes. One of the inheritors of the 4 great demon sect, the Great Net Empire, has already been finished off by your group. However, there are still 3 powerful empires waiting for us. Moreover, amongst them, the inheritance of the Daotai sect was obtained by one of the 10 great super empires, the Sky Devil Empire, and their strength is extraordinary. Based on the information that we have obtained, these 3 great empires have already set up a trap and are waiting for us. The place that we must pass by in order to reach the 100 Empire Mountain has already been sealed by them. Liu Bai laughed bitterly when he spoke until this point. He said, we have already fought with the Blood Seal Empire and the Bone Jade Empire. We can be considered as evenly matched. However, the Sky Devil Empire is too powerful. If they were to join forces, it would be impossible for us to break through. Lin Dong's eyebrows also knitted gently when he saw the bitter smile on Liu Bai's face. 3 great empires joining forces, with one of them being a vicious 10 great super empire. With this kind of lineup, it would likely be extremely difficult for them to charge through alone. The Ground Evil Alliance and the Tiangang Alliance are factions that totally oppose each other. In order to obtain the inheritance, they would definitely not let us off easily. It is likely that none of us will be able to run from this battle. Yang Sen spoke in a soft and deep voice. How powerful is the Sky Devil Empire? Lin Dong asked. Very powerful. The Sky Devil Empire is said to have 3 devils. The eldest is called Songjun, the second is called Song Q, and the third is Song Ba. All of them are experts who had stepped into the 5-yuan nirvana stage. Moreover, there are also some underlings with extraordinary strength beneath them. Liu Bai curled his lips. His voice contained a dense fear. They were also a super empire, but the strength of the Sky Devil Empire was far surpassed them. 3 5-yuan nirvana stage her. Mo Ling and the others behind Lin Dong had a drastic change in their expressions upon hearing these words. The strength of this 10 great super empires was actually this terrifying. They are indeed extremely troublesome to deal with. A solemnness surged up Lin Dong's eyes. This was likely the empire with the grandest lineup that he had encountered since entering this ancient battlefield. 3 5-yuan nirvana stage. It was likely sufficient to eliminate Liu Bai's group. No wonder they did not dare to enter into the deep region and had instead chose to come looking for him. Are you asking us to deal with the Sky Devil Empire? Little Martin asked with a half smile. I know that this is making things difficult for you, but you are the only ones who are currently able to deal with them. Liu Bai laughed bitterly while feeling a little embarrassed. The ones whom Lin Dong's group had to deal with in this alliance was going to be the most troublesome opponent. All of us are considered to be on the same boat. Lin Dong, if we are finished off by the Sky Devil Empire, you will also be besieged from all sides. Therefore, none of us has a choice. Yang Sen spoke in a deep voice. Currently, everyone knows that the Sky Devil Empire has already made an arrangement in the deep regions of the 100 Empire Forest and are waiting for us. Even those experts from the super sects on the 100 Empire Mountain could be staring at that place. Unless we withdraw from this 100 Empire war now, otherwise, we must engage in this fight. Lin Dong knitted his brows tightly, but he did not speak. If they could be victorious in this battle, it was likely that they could directly ascend the 100 Empire Mountain. However, if they were to fail, 1 year of bitter training would come to naught. Liu Bai and Yang Sen ceased saying anything as they looked at Lin Dong descending into silence. However, their heartbeats had unknowingly increased. Lin Dong was considered as their final potential savior. With their current strength, it was impossible for them to contend against the Sky Devil Empire. The only one who could achieve this was likely Lin Dong's group, which had a reputation that was catching up to the 10 great super empires. Mu Hongling quietly clenched her hand tightly. The tense atmosphere caused her experience breathing difficulties. She could also sense the anxiety of those around her. All of them were awaiting Lin Dong's answer. This was because the person in front of them was considered as their final savior. Mu Hongling's pretty eyes were staring at the quiet Lin Dong with a complicated expression. All sorts of emotions were mixed into it. Who could imagine that the young man, who had once ended up in an exceptionally miserable state in her hands, would actually become this powerful within a short half a year? Even their final fate rests on his single word. This tense atmosphere continued for a while before it was broken by a long exhale from Lin Dong. He raised his eyes and looked at the incomparably anxious Liu Bai's group before softly saying, "Can you deal with the Blood Seal Empire and the Bone Jade Empire? As long as the Sky Devil Empire does not intervene, we can definitely settle these 2 empires." An excitement flashed across the eyes of Liu Bai and Yang Sen as they replied in a deep voice. In that case. Lin Dong lifted his lips. Immediately, the corner of his mouth was lifted into a relatively fiery hot arc. In that case, just leave the Sky Devil Empire to us. The back of Mu Hongling's teeth bit her red lips. Her pretty eyes stared at the young face, where a wild heat had appeared. An unusual flush gradually surged up onto the enchanting face of hers. The attraction she felt towards Lindong at this moment had surpassed any of the outstanding men whom she had met in the past. She was not aware of how this situation would end. However, she knew that in this subsequent big battle, this man would become the most dazzling existence within the 100 Empire Forest. Brother Lindong has agreed. Liu Bai and Yang Sen's faces were simultaneously filled with joy and excitement. Originally, they thought that it was going to be very difficult to convince Lindong to cooperate with them. After all, the ones that they had to deal with were one of the 10 great super empires, Sky Devil Empire. However, once they saw Lindong nod his head, both of them involuntarily heaved a sigh of relief. Lindong chuckled. No one in their right mind would want to fight with the perverted 10 great super empires, and he felt likewise. However, just as Liu Bai had mentioned, right now, they had no other alternatives. Since Sky Devil Empire and the other empires have laid a trap, it was evident that they were not intending to let them off easily. Therefore, unless they chose to withdraw from the 100 Empire War now, else, they had no choice but to fight with the Sky Devil Empire. Furthermore, it was naturally impossible for Lindong to withdraw from the 100 Empire War. Since he refused to give up, he had no choice but to fight. Even though the Sky Devil Empire is extremely powerful, no one knows who will emerge victorious if they fought seriously. After all, right now, Lindong's group was quite powerful as well. Even though 3-5 Yuan Nirvana stage practitioners is quite troublesome, I believe that we can handle it. Little Martin casually said. When they heard his words, Liu Bai and the rest involuntarily turned to look at him. Little Martin's beautiful young face caused them to feel somewhat startled, but no one dared to underestimate him. During this period of time, they had heard much news regarding Lindong's group. Naturally, it also contained news regarding Little Martin. Therefore, they knew that this gorgeous-looking fellow was actually deep and unpredictable. Be careful, Lindong softly said. On top of the 100 Empire War, there were members from the super sect monitoring this forest. If Little Martin was to blow his cover, it might cause quite a bit of trouble. Don't worry, there is no need for me to use my real body to handle a 5 Yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. As long as the two of you don't screw up, we will be fine. Little Martin casually said. There was a tinge of unconcealable pride contained within his tone. As a celestial demon Martin, arrogance was embedded deep into his bones and it could not be erased. Brother Liu Bai, lead the way. When he saw this scene, Lindong chose not to speak any further. Instead, he tiled his head and smiled at Liu Bai before he spoke. Yes. Liu Bai quickly nodded his head. Without further ado, he directly turned around and led the way. Behind him, Yang Sen and the rest quickly followed behind. Finally, Lindong's group leisurely tailed behind them. When these three factions gathered together, their combined aura was pretty impressive. Furthermore, Liu Bai, Yang Sen and Lindong were not unknown individuals. Therefore, when they traveled across the 100 Empire Forest together, they attracted quite a bit of attention. Why is Lindong together with Liu Bai and the rest? All of them are the heirs that gained the inheritance of the 4 great mysterious sects. According to what I know, the inheritor of the Daotai sect has already laid a trap for them at the base of the 100 Empire Mountain. That faction is one of the 10 great super empires, Sky Devil Empire. With such a powerful foe in their way, how could Lindong dare to travel alone? Seems like they are in for a rough time. The 3 devils of the Sky Devil Empire are no pushovers and they are genuine 5 Yuan Nirvana stage practitioners. That may not be the case. Even though the Sky Devil Empire is powerful, Lindong's group is no pushovers as well. Yesterday, when the Great Net Empire went to harass them, eventually just Lindong and that fellow called Lin Jiao attacked and totally crushed them. Their strength should not lose out to the Sky Devil Empire. Hence, if they truly fought, the outcome is still up in the air. Go? Let's follow them and see. If you miss out on such a grand battle, it would be a huge waste. The originally heated atmosphere in the forest began to turn boiling hot as Lindong's large group flashed by. After all, in this period of time, Lin Dong's reputation has directly caught up with the 10 great super empires, and everyone know that he was going to be the Black Horse in this 100 Empire War. Therefore, when this Black Horse was about to fight with an established empire like the Sky Devil Empire, everyone became excited. With regards to the escalating atmosphere in the forest, Lin Dong's group chose to ignore it. They turned their attention towards the deepest region of the forest, while a fiery battle intent faintly emerged on their bodies. They knew that the following battle would surely shock their entire 100 Empire forest. Even though the 100 Empire forest was vast, for most of the elite practitioners here, it would only take an hour for them to traverse across it. However, in order to obtain enough Nirvana seals to allow them to ascend to Nirvana Golden ranking, they had to undergo countless brutal battles. Of course, even so, though there was quite a few individuals who were currently at the deepest region of the 100 Empire forest, all of them had something in common. That was, all of them were quite powerful. At the southern side of the 100 Empire mountain was a large area filled with odd rocks. The terrain was fairly peculiar, and some of the rocks were as even several hundred meters tall, just like a tiny mountain. This was one of the few paths that everyone must pass through in order to reach the 100 Empire mountain. For practitioners traveling from the south, all of them must pass through this area before they can ascend on the 100 Empire mountain, behind it. Right now, there were several figures standing on top of those large rocks. Faintly, there was an icy cold and venomous aura circulating in the air. At the central spot in this terrain filled with odd rocks, there was a dozen over figures that were quietly seated down. They did not intentionally activate their Yuan power. However, there were still circular winds formed from Yuan power howling beside their bodies, giving off a deep buzzing sound. Furthermore, for the three figures seated right in front, this vibration was the most intense. All three of them were wearing a black long robes, and there was a picture of a skull on their robes. Wherever their robes swayed in the wind, it seemed like that skeleton was about to break free of their clothes and directly swallow a human. There was a tinge of similarity between their looks. Meanwhile, an alarming Yuan power pressure unknowing emerged from within their bodies and enveloped the entire area with odd rocks, causing several people's expressions to change. A beautiful figure dressed in blue broke through the air before she landed on top of a large rock in this area. Her slim and alluring figure belonged to Lin Ying, whom Lin Dong was briefly acquainted with. They actually laid such a formidable setup. As Lin Ying stared at the three seated figures, her beautiful pupils dilated. Ha ha, seems like the Sky Devil Empire plans to make a clean sweep of Lin Dong's group in this spot. Suddenly, a hearty laughter emerged from behind Lin Ying. Following which, she saw a figure gently floating down behind her. It was a handsome man dressed in moon-white clothes with a longsword on his back. As his toes touched the ground, faintly, an extremely powerful sword aura spread out, causing tiny cracks to appear on the surrounding large rocks. You are late by one step. Lin Ying smiled as she said. I met that fellow from Sword Empire at the northern side and I fought with him. That's why I am a little late. That man carrying a long sword smiled as he replied. Oh, that fellow who loves the blade as much as he loves his life. How powerful is he now? Lin Ying gently raised her brows and asked. He has also advanced to 5 Yuan Nirvana stage. The sword ancestor techniques of the Sword Empire are quite extraordinary, and they do not lose out to the celestial sword techniques of our Celestial Empire. The three Song brothers have laid out a pretty terrifying formation. Do you think Lin Dong will have the guts to challenge him? That man suddenly turned to look at that man filled with odd rocks. When he saw this formation, he asked mockingly. The Song family 3 devils are all 5 Yuan Nirvana stage practitioners, and they are considered as the elite fighting force in the 100 Empire War. Right now, all 3 of them have a purple gold Nirvana seal and have stepped into the Nirvana Golden ranking. This man, called Qing Feng, was a little surprised that they would actually use such a formation to deal with Lin Dong's group. I am afraid you are wrong this time around. I have met Lin Dong and he is a pretty interesting fellow. Furthermore, they are quite powerful as well. Even if the Sky Devil Empire was to attack them, the final outcome is up in the air. Lin Ying gently smiled as he said. When he heard his words, Qing Feng gently lifted his brows before he asked disbelievingly, I don't believe that they will appear. You should be well aware of the strength of the Song brothers. Lei smiled before she gently gripped her jade-like hands. Following which, her beautiful eyes turned toward the path that every practitioner must cross to reach the 100 Empire Mountain, before she softly said, "Don't look down on them or there will be a hefty price to pay. For a bunch of low-rank Empire members to make it here, it requires perseverance, talent and wits. Qing Feng, if you did not have the backing of the Celestial Empire, do you think that you could make it here and possess a reputation that could surpass the 10 great super empires?" Qing Feng was startled. Finally, he gently reduced the mocking grin on his face. After he was silent for a moment, he slowly said, "Could it be?" Lei Ning gently smiled. Her sharp chin was extremely alluring. As she lifted her head, she gently smiled. "So, they have arrived." Qing Feng suddenly lifted his head, only to hear breaking wind sounds suddenly emerging from that distant forest. Following which, several figures filled with rich battle intent dashed forth just like sharp blades. Did they really come? In the instant, in that area filled with odd rocks, 3 black-robed figures who had tightly shut their eyes, suddenly opened their eyes. Rich yuan power immediately swept forth just like a hurricane. This video will end here.